Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our episode with a short tale of petty revenge prepared by our OP. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I'm sorry I annoyed you with my neighborliness. I live in a condo complex, and my particular area is a group of 4 units, and we have designated parking out front just off the road. We all know each other's cars. The neighbor on the end has lived here about 2 years, and shortly after he moved in, I let him know his sunroof was open, the air vent way not fully open, when it was about to rain. He looked at me like I was an idiot and told me he knew and shut the door. Fine. Come to find out over time that he leaves the sunroof open if he's going back out. Well, today I saw his sunroof open like usual, but rain was on the way and no sign of him. It's been a moderate rain for about 3 hours now with some occasional downpours. I've been fully aware of all the water getting into his car and decided that he obviously knows it's open. He just left and had to sit his butt down in a wet car seat. Very satisfying. And our second story. Man destroys elevator, then tries to sue my building and other shenanigans. So first I'll give out some context. I'm 19 years old and I'm currently working as a relief super at the building I'm staying at while attending college. Got to pay fees and stuff, so this helps me a lot. I work part-time on a night shift, so I'm typically the guy to take late calls and stuff. Now another thing before we start, the building I live in has 16 floors. 4 of those are parking. The ground floor, of course, has the lobby and stuff. The rest of the floors have the actual apartments. Thing is that this building has only 3 elevators, and only one of these elevators is usable for movings. So whenever someone moves in or out, elevators get a bit crowded. End of the story. It was October 2019. I was sleeping when suddenly I get woken up by a phone call from a resident that tells me she can hear some yelling coming from an elevator stuck on the 11th floor. I take the call and get dressed quickly since I only had some sweatpants on and go out. Since one elevator had already gotten stuck before and it was out for repairs, and since the other elevator wasn't coming anytime soon, I rushed downstairs as I called the fire department. The instructions I was given for these cases are simple. If someone either dies, has a fire, a big water leak, or is stuck in the elevator, I have to call the fire department. Anything else I have to attend myself. I rushed downstairs as I called 911 and met with them in the lobby. I reported the situation to them and they called in all the elevators to the ground floor. The one that the guy, which I'll call EW, elevator record, was in, didn't go down. So we took the elevator up to the 11th floor. However, once we got there, the elevator was nowhere to be seen. So we returned to the lobby and found the elevator that EW was in, and both of the doors were wide open with several smash bumps and scratches. The floor of the elevator cracked. The decorative wood also having missing bits and pieces, and both handlebars ripped off the walls. Thankfully, the buttons and everything was fine, but the guy also got the door stuck. Right after that, we asked a guy who was standing at the entrance to the lobby, and we asked him if he saw EW. He said that he did, and that then EW went to the garbage room, which is only a couple doors away. As we approach the garbage room, we hear EW having a bit of a loud argument with some electricians that were working in there, since we have the electrical panels behind the garbage room. Right as we enter, we see a bag of dried up concrete mashed on the floor and EW walking away. The electricians were unharmed, but told us that EW attacked them. We caught up with EW, and I got into a bit of a heated argument with him, but it ends with him walking away as we call the police. Once the police officers arrive, EW returns with a pack of cigarettes. He gets questioned by the officer, and then EW admitted to having both destroyed the elevator and attacked the electricians. He gets cuffed, and for now, we'd assumed, taken away. After all that, my boss, the superintendent, had come down, and we all checked the camera footage. Right on the camera footage, we could see EW walk out of the wrecked elevator with a handlebar in his hand, since we don't have cameras in the elevators. I then get my info taken by the cops and then go back to my unit and return to sleeping. Next day, as I head to return my work phone, I hear EW's voice in the office and then hide as I see him go out for a walk. I ask my boss, who was talking with the property admin, what had happened. EW basically had threatened to sue the building since he suffered from claustrophobia. We'll touch up on this later. And that he shouldn't have the building sue him since he feared for his life and did what he deemed necessary. Then I heard from EW's story. Dude was in prison and had some shady background. He's an alcoholic and lives alone, although he often brings shady people into the building. The company filed a case against him, and we went to court in February of this year. During the trial, he had to go by himself since his mother apparently didn't get the summons and wasn't around the city. As well, he got questioned by the company's lawyer and the judge themselves whether they had any mental illness. EW denied having any sort of mental illness, plus he didn't have any diagnostics on him. The case basically ended on him now owing the building $30,000, but the eviction can't be enforced because, well, obvious reasons. Now, that's not the only thing that happened. Recently, I was working, again, my night shift. It was 2 a.m., I was sleeping, and suddenly EW calls me. He says that he needs new keys and he needs to see the relief super with urgency. I basically can't say no, so I put on my mask and go ahead to his unit on the 11th floor. I meet him and he says that he needs new keys, and I say this to him: we'll type out the conversation from here until I finish. EW: hey man, can you help me? I need some new keys and I gotta walk my dog. Dude, it's 2 a.m., the office is closed. Just call tomorrow. Yeah, I don't need keys tomorrow, I need keys now. Can you help me get into the office? No, I can't. The soonest you can get your keys is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Look, man, I need to walk my dog. They have a physical necessity of being walked. Then why didn't you walk it another time? And why can't you just walk it out and leave your door open? It's not like anyone's awake enough to come into your unit and steal your stuff. Oh, so you're asking my dog to not attend its psychological needs? No. I'm only telling you that maybe you should either walk your dog at another time or just go out for the walk without locking the door. Yeah, buddy, look, I have a condition that basically keeps me from sleeping if I don't walk my dog at 2 a.m. He really said this, with those exact words. Well, I don't know, but I really can't help you. For now, I'd suggest you maybe walk your dog on your balcony or just wait until later in the morning. Right now it's 2 a.m., I'm sleepy, and I can't help you get your keys. So I apologize, but I have to go. After that, I go back to my unit, get into bed, and then he calls me and literally asks me this: hey, you maybe could come and lock and unlock my door when I call you. I really didn't want to deal with that crap, so I only told him, yeah, sure, and then of course went back to sleep. Next day, I went for groceries, and life went on with normalcy. So yeah, this was my tiny story for y'all. And our last story. You want it all? It's in the shoebox. Not my story. It was originally written by a fine gentleman, Larry, but I had to share it here. Well, it's not exactly being fired or being let go, but here's the story of a job that I walked away from with a bit of revenge. I'm not proud of it, nor am I ashamed of it. It's just something that happened. Some details have been redacted from this telling, and some that are not flattering to the author remain. You be the judge. I took a contract job in college, this was about 30 years ago, to design a peripheral card for a PC. The company made scales and wanted to interface sensors to the PC to build a new scale. It's common nowadays, but was pretty new back then. I designed the device and wire-wrapped a prototype. Arty, it looked something like a large motherboard covered in soldered 3.5mm jacks and metal noodles. I wrote a minimal program and demonstrated it to them. It worked just as they wanted, and they asked me to design the circuit board for production. At that point, I asked them to pay me for what I'd done so far, and I'd get started on the board. I handed them my bill. It included all the parts, and I charged my time at $10 per hour as per our verbal agreement, which was cheap for this sort of work, even back then. The next day, I went to pick up my check. They paid for all the parts, but had changed my labor rate to $3.35 an hour, which was minimum wage at that time. I asked to talk to the owner and asked him why they were only paying me part of what they owed me. He said that since I did it so quickly and it worked right away, it must not have been hard enough to warrant more than minimum wage. I walked out and went home. 2 days later, he called to find out how the circuit board was coming. I told him I would not be designing the circuit board for him. He said that he wanted all the hardware that he paid for and the circuit diagrams. I said, okay, I have classes for the rest of the day. Please send somebody over at 9 tomorrow to pick it up. I gave him my address. That evening, while watching Doctor Who on our local PBS station, I unwrapped every wire, put them neatly in a plastic bag. I pulled every chip, about 20 chips, and put them in anti-static chip tubes. I popped every pin out of the board and put them in a jar. Then I ran the schematics through my paper shredder and put them in a plastic bag. I then packed everything neatly in a shoebox and gave it to the guy that showed up the next day. The owner called me later that day and demanded that I put everything back together and provide the circuit diagram. I told him that I'd given him the circuit diagram, but unfortunately it had fallen into my shredder. I told him that he got everything that he paid for, and I was sure that he could find someone else to put it back together. 3 years later, they still didn't have a product. I think they finally did, but it took them almost a decade. Back then, there were not many people in that area of the country who knew anything at all about digital logic, and especially very few who knew how to build a peripheral board to plug into a PC. He later hired one person I knew and did the same thing to them. I remember not even being upset about it. I just sighed, put down to experience, and moved on. But I learned 2 lessons that I'll never forget. Always get it in writing, and check out their reputation before agreeing. So yes, it was vindictive. Did it cost me anything? Yeah, it cost me about 40 hours of work being paid $335 instead of the $10 that we agreed on. Doing the math, it cost me $266. Did it cost him anything? Millions, maybe billions. But I am free. Ayn Rand can kiss my butt. Being greedy often costs more than if you paid in the first place. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.